You're listening to All of It. I'm Allison Stewart. I'm really glad that you're here. I want to preview tomorrow's show because it's a banger. That's because Grammy Award-winning New Orleans band Tank and the Bangas will be here in studio. They have a new album out called The Last Balloon, and they'll perform a few songs from it live from our own Studio 5. Plus, we'll talk about two institutions marking their 50th anniversaries. MoMA PS1, which is celebrating with a new exhibit featuring 50 artists living and working in New York City, and the New York Transit Museum, which is marking its golden anniversary with a series of special events and exhibits. That is coming up tomorrow. Now let's get this hour started with the new documentary, The A-List. For a new documentary, filmmaker Eugene Yi asked a group of people with Asian and Pacific Islander roots the question, what does your identity in America mean to you? Here's how actor and comedian Kumail Nanjiani responded.
For me, the negotiation of my identity is still an ongoing project. I still don't know. You know, if you asked how I identify myself, I say Pakistani. Wikipedia says Pakistani American. I don't really know what that means. So I don't feel fully Pakistani because it's not my home anymore. And I don't feel American because your membership in a group is based on the other members seeing you as a member of that group. And I understand that a lot of America is never going to see me as American.
15
and
other...
so I don't feel American.
I'm so sorry. 15 other individuals were surveyed for the film, included actor Sandra Oh, journalist Connie Chung, Senator Tammy Duckworth, and my other guest, musician and friend of the show, and Basement Bongra founder, DJ Rekha.
Hello.
Hello.
Friend of the show. Oh my God.
FOS.
I can die happy.
The documentary is titled The A-List, 15 Stories from Asian and Pacific Diasporas. It premieres on HBO today. Eugene, welcome to the studio, as well as Rekha.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
So, Eugene, what did you hope to get from that question? What does your identity in America mean to you?
I guess I can start by saying, so we had the honor of being reviewed in the New York Times today, and the review was called The Diaspora Described. And that actually touches on something that we really wanted to think about, because when you think of Asian American, AAPI, ANHPI, any of these umbrella terms that we're under, like, who are we talking about? Who do we think of? Is it someone who looks like me and I'm of East Asian descent? Is it someone who looks like Rekha who has South Asian roots? It's probably someone who looks like me. And so if we can't even define what our community is, like, how can we talk about, the bigger questions of solidarity and self and like how we actually build something? And so exploring this identity, these were some of the things that we were after.
Listeners, we're going to ask you the same. If you're part of the Asian or Pacific diaspora, call in and tell us, how do you identify in America? How have you navigated being defined by others or defining yourself, belonging, not belonging? Give us a call. Tell us how you're feeling. Our phone number is 212-433-WNYC, 212-433-9692. Rekha, what was appealing to you about being in a documentary like this?
Well, it was HBO.
True.
But I got a request, and it was a short window, so I was trying to figure out if it worked. And then I was like, I'm always worrying, like, who's asking the questions? Are you making an Asian American film? Is it an Asian American? Are Asian Americans involved in it? Mm-hmm. Then I saw Eugene's name. Then I went and saw his movie, Free
Chol-Soo-Lee.
Thank you. Free It's long COVID brain. Free Chol-Soo-Lee. I also saw his other movie last night, The Rose, which was excellent. I was like, okay, I really like this movie. I get it. I can trust this. And then somebody who works with me, Salim Gondal, is also a filmmaker. He said, oh, my friend Noshin is the DP on this project. I was like, okay, it's getting better. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was enough vetting, because I've definitely, been around the block, and when I got an email from Zillow about making a video in Jackson Heights, I deleted that one. But you just want to be sure where what you can go in a room where you can trust people.
You use the word trust. What do you mean when you say you wanted to make sure you could trust it?
Media, things get edited. You get asked sometimes the same questions. Things can be taken out of context. Mm-hmm. You can be prodded for answers. You're putting yourself out there. You're talking about yourself. So I think that is something I'm aware of.
Eugene, it's a pretty simple format, 15 one-on-one interviews. When did that become clear to you that was going to be your format?
So this film is actually part of a broader list series started by the portrait photographer Timothy Greenfield Sanders. And so there are other installments of this series, all with the same format, that cover different communities. So the very first one was called The Blacklist, and it explored the African American community. And it's gone on from there. And so the intent with that format was really to kind of have Timothy's portraits come to life. And so when we came on for this one, myself as well as our crew and our lead interviewer, Jada Yuan, who is a print journalist, we wanted to kind of preserve that format. And it ended up being an interesting challenge because it really is so intimate and so simple. It's almost the bare bones of documentary filmmaking, where it's like, can you have a moment? Can you sort of connect with someone quickly? And I think a big credit goes to Jada for just all of her skill and ability, as well as the fact that I think, Rekha referred to this, like in terms of our DP, we tried to have as much as AAPI of a crew as possible so people could come in and feel like they were having a family conversation where they didn't have to explain themselves and talk about like, oh, this is the food I eat. It is made of A, B, and C. Like they could just kind of talk and be themselves. That's what we were hoping
And
for.
Jada did do a lot of the interviews, I understand, but Eugene interviewed me.
Rekha was stuck with me.
Yeah, and I was pretty impressed. You did your homework, so a lot of times I have to try not to eye roll and explain the basics, but I didn't have to do that.
That's interesting. What did your research go into, DJ Rekha, when you thought about interviewing them?
Rekha is a legend, as folks know.
Still alive, though.
It's like awkward to talk about you in the third person.
You're not
like
here.
But what was interesting was to see over the years, like I think the range of people who had interviewed them and to see which interviews Rekha seemed to really come alive in. And those are the ones that I think were trying to do more of what we were trying to do as well, really not have them explain everything and really just sort of like connect about their passions, what they're interested in, what they're up to, just what their mission is. And so that's what we were hoping to capture.
I'm speaking to director Eugene Yi about his new documentary, The A-List, 15 Stories from Asian and Pacific Diasporas. One of its subjects, DJ Rekha, is also here. The documentary premieres on HBO today. Let's listen to another clip. This is a clip of Chef, I hope I pronounce this right, Yi Vang?
Yi Vang.
Yi Vang. Tell us about Yi Vang.
So Yi Vang is a James Beard Award finalist. He's currently based in Minneapolis from the Hmong community. And he runs a restaurant called Vinai, which is the refugee camp in Southeast Asia where he was born. And I think that's the context for him.
All right, we're going to listen to a little bit of him describing his childhood. This broke my heart. This is from the A-List.
Imagine being an 8-year-old kid, your mom gives you lunch to take to school. She worked really hard to make sure that her boy was taken care of. The only way that she knew how was to cook. And then when you go to lunch, you get these kids who made fun of you and said your food stank and they didn't want you near them. You know what I did? I threw my food away so that I could just be friends, so I can be cool. And I would come home and I would lie to her saying, oh, yep, I ate everything. So that's like 8, 9-year-old Yi, right? And you fast forward like 30 years and feeling shame for like that kid who didn't know,
Oh, that one just broke my heart. What was exceptional about his answer, Eugene?
His emotionality and how it connects with what he does now. Because I'll say this, I feel like there are circles and conversations I'm in where people are like, are we done with stinky lunchbox stories? We've heard a lot of stinky lunchbox stories over the years.
Yeah, it's a trope. But at the same time, I cry each time I watch that. I'm verklempt every time. And we have some version of that story, went to the public theater one time and someone said, does it smell like a curry house after I'd just eaten something from Kebab King? But you know what? We're not done with those stories.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it, is that we're not done, is because, to not be visible in the way, or to not have your heritage or be part of the fabric of this country in terms of its history, which it definitely is. I don't think we're done.
Yeah, and I think to build on that, it's something that just needs to be reasserted with every generation almost is what it felt like, because I would talk to young people and, they're not done with stinky lunchbox stories. So maybe it's just part of being like a washed dad and I'm just like tired of like some of these stories. Also Gen X, but ultimately, like, these are the stories that we need to do to sort of continue and maintain and almost hold a baseline for who we are, especially in this time right now where so much of our visibility and ourselves are being threatened and erased even.
Ricky, you describe yourself in it as the opposite of self-hating.
Yes.
Which was awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the power in white baiting. Sorry. I think early on, I think my mother instilled a great sense of pride in me about where we were from. And I think I definitely inherited her curiosity about everything. So, she got me a lot of books about our heritage, those comic books, some of them, not the Hindu fascist ones, but the other ones. And I was always curious to know about where I was from. And I also knew that in school, it was a way to connect with teachers. Like people would be, saying like, I've been to an Indian restaurant. I'm like, oh, really? Where? And I think I kind of used it and as a way to connect with people because I was proud of it and I did know about it. And and I didn't grow up in a white suburb, which is very common it's a certain experience of post-65 South Asians of a certain class. And I think the overrepresentation of that class invisibilizes the many generations of other Asians and South Asians who've come here on different circumstances. People who've come, there have been Asians coming to this country since it was done, and also great, which one reason of immigration anywhere is labor, So, so I think for me, I was always very into my culture, very proud about it, willing to be the cultural informant, so that's how I felt. I didn't have, a somewhat typical or a sort of experiences, you grow up and you're not very proud of who you are, then you go to college and then you join the Bhangra team or something. And no, that I went to college with so many South Asians of every stripe. It wasn't that. And I think that is an experience, a cultural experience that is not discussed enough, that we're not all white adjacent. We're not all striving to be that some of us live in communities of color, different kinds of communities. And a lot of the reduction of experience is a class-based idea, which is not discussed enough, I think.
We're talking about the A-List, 15 stories from Asian and Pacific Diasporas. It's on HBO tonight. It premieres on HBO tonight. My guests are director Eugene Yi as well as DJ Rekha. We're going to play a clip from a Pakistani-American astrophysicist. I'm going to ask you to say her name.
Nergis Mavalvala.
Thank you very much. What should we know about her before we hear this clip?
She's a MacArthur genius. She's a genius.
Let's listen.
Being a minority has touched my life in many, many different ways. And the most significant way is a total comfort with being a maverick, being an outsider in the mainstream. Whether it is being comfortable being a queer person when it was really pretty hard to be a queer person, to working on a physics experiment that everybody thought was sure to fail and that you were foolish to try. To be other is okay. Just by being a scientist and being a South Asian or Pakistani American and being a queer person and being able to say all those things and yet have success in science has meant other people can imagine that for themselves as well.
What do you hear in her answer, Rekha?
I hear, identify on the queer part. I think, it resonates with me what she's saying about, being able to be who you are or how you feel. Definitely.
The film includes very famous people, Sandra Oh, Bowen Yang, but also names that you might not know, Eugene. Why was that important?
Because we didn't just want to be like so sorry, no cursing. You know what I mean.
Yeah, we do.
We didn't want to be so focused because I think so much of it leans into this idea that I'm a staunch believer in the idea that like representation is not liberation. And Rekha has said this before. We were just in San Francisco. We're on the panel. We sort of broke down this idea. So often the most visible among us feel like victories. And they're very important. It's very important to see ourselves among the stars and among the most high-profile people out there. It doesn't mean conditions change for the rest of us that look like that, though, because so much about America, takes our labor and does certain things with it, we don't have to get into all that. There's just so many ways that having someone who's famous that looks like you does not change the actual material conditions of your life. So, who's in the community? Who are the heroes in the community? Who are the people that we want to be talking about and elevating who are doing more of that kind of work? We wanted to make sure to have that balance. And this reflects the rest of the list series as well, where they had this mix of high-profile folks and less well-known folks who are still heroes in their communities and whose stories deserve to be told just as much.
What's an example?
An example would be Kathy Masaoka, who's a Japanese-American activist, long time in Southern California, who was one of the central members of a lot of the work that went into getting reparations for the Japanese-American community after the incarceration in concentration camps during World War II. And what was important to us was, one, Kathy Masaoka, after consulting with folks in the Japanese-American community, was someone that folks felt like hadn't gotten her flowers. And so we wanted to make sure of that. But also to just kind of, insert this idea of reparations, just say, hey, this country's kind of done this before.
Yeah.
Maybe there are other communities and other
maybe reparations could be going to some other folks. Every time I watch that, and I'm like, oh my God, yes. This country has paid reparations so it's possible.
It's possible.
Let's just, I said it on the panel, like, has anyone thought about payback for redlining? There's been so much deep generational harm done to so many communities that, in some ways the power of that story is about the story itself and how it reflects that. It's indicative of how those things have affected other communities as well. And how much, I grew up learning about Asian and Black solidarity in the West Coast and forming of Asian American studies. That's a history that's also in the film as well, which I think is really powerful, and people don't always know those things.
I want to play you a clip of Connie Chung. She came here to talk about her memoir and how she was able to get along early in her career. Let's play it, and we can talk about it on the other side.
Since they were throwing F-bombs around, I thought, well, why can't I? It just made no sense that if they were throwing sexual innuendos at me with words that most people wouldn't use, I could do it too. What was keeping me back from it? I really was so convinced I was a man. As I say in the book, when I walked past a mirror, I'd jump because I'd see a Chinese woman staring back at me and I'd say, what the?
That was very interesting, her idea of assimilation. How is assimilation handled in the documentary?
I think it's such a different situation for each person, because I think there are some people who do come from dealing with more of a sense of feeling othered or shame even. And then there are stories like Rekha's where they grew up feeling none of that at all. And everything in between, and just sort of where the journey takes a person from there.
It's also generational, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, it's generational, and that connects with language, that connects with where you are as well, whether there's a community around you or whether there isn't one around you. So many factors go into this, and it speaks to the breadth of the people who are, again, under this umbrella. Because, we're talking ultimately everybody who's Asian American or Pacific Islander has roots there. It's like half to 2/3 of the world. Like, what is it that people can have in common? And so what we're hoping with the film is that people can kind of come to their own conclusions about what might exist that might bind us together.
Rekha, have you ever found yourself in a room that you knew either the people didn't respect you or perhaps didn't want you in the room?
Yes, all the time. Not all the time. Yeah, of course it happens.
What did you learn from those experiences?
I mean, as I've said in the film, and I say all the time, identity is complex. And I mean, I've been in those rooms in the music business, where it's like, I'm female-bodied, I am, queer-looking, I'm brown. So they don't, they're going to someone who has more conventional looks, or they assume something else, or they don't, those rooms can happen in any space. I think it's, again, I always say it's situational. You got to figure out when to fight, when not to fight, what makes sense, where's the agency. I think over time, unfortunately, you develop a skin for it. And I think there were times when it definitely used to bother me. I'm like, I know more, or, something. And it takes a toll on an individual, for sure. It definitely does. But, I think depending on the room, you have to figure it out. I mean, sometimes you kind of need to be introduced somehow, or like sometimes, it's hard. I find it hard to, when you're on a panel and you have to introduce yourself, that's like the worst thing. Like, I don't know what to say, like,
you let other people do it for you.
Yeah. You kind of want somebody else to do it for you. There's something about that. Maybe that's an Asian trait, to be a little humble. I don't know. Yeah. And your parents don't say nice things about you in front of you. I don't know if that's cuts across, ethnicities or whatever.
It hits me. It rings true for me.
Rings true somewhat. So I think, you have to just sort of navigate each thing. I think, no matter what, take any situation, women are 100% always underrepresented in any way. Anyway, I love that there's this solidarity amongst talk show hosts about the end of someone's show, and you look at the picture and it's
oh my God, that picture.
That picture is so
love them all.
I love them all.
At the same time, I'm like,
I've been, I love them all,
similarity.
and it's like two
Love
of
them
them
all.
two of them have the same first name. So, and they look exactly from a distance. So maybe they should form a boy band. No, that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea.
Don't give them more ideas, Rick.
Let me not. They ain't free, these ideas. Okay. Anyway,
white guys in late night are very seen.
Yes.
yes,
right now.
they are. And
we love them.
and we've had other people try to do late night. And the thing I noticed about TV is, if you are not cookie cutter, you don't have time to learn how to do the show. You don't have enough time to figure it out. You have to get it right really fast. And that happened to me in a professional circumstance where I was around male colleagues who bragged about their ignorance in the job. And then within a short time frame, I wasn't given that same, allowance to like figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's just reality,
The name of the documentary is The A-List, 15 Stories from Asian and Pacific Diasporas. It premieres tonight on HBO, thanks to DJ Rekha and director Eugene Yi. Thanks for coming to the studio.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having us.